প্রভু আপনি স্টার্ট করতে পারেন এখন।
আচ্ছা, আমার কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে না।
এখন শুনতে পাচ্ছি। নাও আই কুড হিয়ার।
আচ্ছা, একটু দাঁড়ান। আমার সাউন্ড কি ঠিক আছে না একটু বাড়াতে হবে?
হ্যাঁ, না এখন ঠিক আছে।
আচ্ছা।
এখন ঠিক আছে, কিন্তু ওয়ান থিং আই উইল টেল ইউ, তুমি যে করতাল যখন করবে না, ওটাকে খুব, যদি করতাল করো খুব সফট করবে, নাহলে না আওয়াজটা ঠিক আসে না।
ঠিক
বা
আছে।
তালি দিয়ে করলেও বেস্ট।
হ্যাঁ,
লিরিক্সের ফন্টটাকে একটু বাড়িয়ে দাও।
ফন্টটা বাড়াতে দিচ্ছি। একটু দাঁড়ান আমাকে। আমি আসলে ঠিক স্ক্রিনটা শেয়ার, আমি আবার শেয়ার লিস্ট ওয়ান শেয়ার।
ইয়া।
ঠিক আছে, এখন
হুম।
এখানে এইদিকে মুভ করবো।
মধুরাজটা কাম দেখাচ্ছে। কন্ট্রোল প্লাস প্লাস করলে বড় হয়ে যাবে অটোমেটিক্যালি।
আচ্ছা, আমি দাঁড়ান বড় হচ্ছে।
ইয়া।
এখন হ্যাঁ, একটু বড় করবো।
হুম।
আচ্ছা, আমার মনে হয় একটু এই স্ক্রিনে বড় করতে একটু ইয়ে আছে।
ঠিক আছে, ঠিক আছে, দ্যাট ইজ ফাইন প্রভু। আপনি গান করলে সবাই শুনতে পাবে, দ্যাট ইজ অলসো ফাইন। ইয়া, ইজ গুড। হুম।
ঠিক আছে, আমরা উইল স্টার্ট উইথ the program. Welcome everyone to our Wednesday Krishna Katha. So today I will start with Madhurashtakam, and then we'll do Mangalacharan, and then we'll move towards the discussion of today, which is the sweetness of devotional service. So I'm planning to give this discussion on several parts, kind of like a series. So today will be part 1. So thank you everyone. So without further ado, I will start. Adharam madhuram badanam madhuram nayanam madhuram hasitam madhuram hridayam madhuram namanam madhuram madhuradipate akhilam madhuradipate akhilam madhuram vachanam madhuram charitam madhuram masanam madhuram malitam madhuram chalitam madhuram भ्रमितं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरं वेणु मधुरो वेणु मधुरा पानी मधुरा पादो मधुरा नितं मधुरं सख्यं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरं गीतं मधुरं पीतं मधुरं भुक्तं मधुरं सुप्तं मधुरं रूपं मधुरं तिलकं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरं तरणं मधुरं हरणं Taranam Maduram, Taranam Maduram, Taranam Maduram, Ramanam Maduram, Pamitam Maduram, Shamitam Maduram, Madhuradipate Akilam Maduram,
Prabhu,
Madhuradipate Akilam
Prabhu,
Maduram.
just sing Korun. Don't play the instrument because your voice is not coming well.
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
Gopi Madhura Leela Madhura Gopi Madhura Leela Madhura Yuktam Madhuram Bhuktam Madhuram Rishtam Madhuram Shishtam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akilam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akilam Madhuram Gopya Madhura Gavo Madhura Gopya Madhura Gabo Madhura Yashti Madhura Srishti Madhura Lalitam Madhuram Palitam Madhuram Lalitam Madhuram Palitam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akilam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akilam Madhuram Adharam Madhuram Badanam Madhuram Nayanam Madhuram Hasitam Madhuram Hridayam Madhuram Gamanam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akilam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akilam Madhuram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Prabhupada. So, this song, Sri Vallabhacharya, who is an Acharya, and he is prominent personality in the Rudra Sampradaya, and he wrote this song to explain the beauty of Lord Sri Krishna, as you can see. And interestingly, he is also mentioned in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Vallabhacharya did meet Sri Mahaprabhu and his devotees in Sridham Jagannath Puri. So let us see what is the translation. So it's mentioning about Krishna's beauties. His lips are sweet, his face is sweet, his eyes are sweet, his smile is sweet, his heart is sweet, his gait is sweet, everything is sweet about him. And saying everything is sweet about the emperor of sweetness. Then is saying his words are sweet, his character is sweet, his dress is sweet, his bellyfuls are sweet, his movements are sweet, his wandering is sweet. Everything is sweet about the emperor of sweetness. Then his flute is sweet, his foot dust is sweet, his hands are sweet, his feet are sweet, his dancing is sweet, his friendship is sweet. Everything is sweet about the emperor of sweetness. His singing is sweet, his yellow cloth is sweet, his eating is sweet, his sleeping is sweet, his beauty is sweet, his tilak is sweet. Everything is sweet about the emperor of sweetness. His deeds are sweet, his liberating is sweet, his stealing is sweet, his love sports are sweet, his oblations are sweet, his tranquility is sweet. Everything is sweet about the Lord. His Gunjaveri necklace is sweet, his flower garland, which is also very sweet. Then Yamuna, which is his river, is very sweet. The ripples in the Yamuna, just mention his ripples because Yamuna is his river. Those ripples are very sweet. And the water of Yamuna is very sweet because it's related to Krishna. His lotuses are sweet. It means whichever lotuses are blooming in the Yamuna river. Everything is sweet about the emperor of sweetness. Then his gopis, I think there's a type, it would be cowherd girls. They're sweet. Then his pastimes are very sweet. His union with the gopis is sweet. Then whatever he eats is sweet. His delight is sweet. And his courtesy is sweet. He's very courteous. So everything is sweet about the emperor of sweetness. And his gopas, cowherd boys, are sweet. His cows are sweet. His staff is sweet. His creation is sweet. His trampling is sweet. His fruitfulness is sweet. Everything is sweet about the emperor of sweetness. So that's how sweet Lord Krishna is. By the way, I would like to, ask Ashramada Prabhu that actually, since I mentioned this, I was just thinking back again. Probably Pallavacharya comes not under Rudra Sampradaya. I know he has a separate Sampradaya of his own, which is Pushti Marg. But Ashramada Prabhu, would you be able to clarify if you know, like, does he belong to our, Brahma Madhava Gauriya Sampradaya, or he's part of some other Sampradaya?
Vallabhacharya is not part of Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya.
Okay.
I think he is Vishnu Swami, part of Rudra Sampradaya only.
Okay, then probably I said right. Okay. But the point here is he's explaining very nicely how Krishna is sweet. Thank you, Ashramad, for the explanation. And that's why it's called Sri Madhura Ashtakam. So Krishna is very sweet. And who relishes his sweetness? The devotees. Devotees relish Krishna's sweetness by serving Krishna, hearing about Krishna, Sravanam Kirtanam, then Vishnu Saranam, all these different ways, 9 processes of devotional service. And among the devotees, who tastes Krishna's sweetness the most? Obviously, it's Srimati Radharani, because she is the topmost devotee of Sri Krishna. And the same Krishna actually divided into Radha and Krishna to enjoy loving pastimes. So Radharani is the manifestation of devotional service to Lord Krishna. And Radharani's devotion is so exalted that Krishna also wanted to experience how Radharani feels, how much love Radharani has for Krishna. So if we go back before Lord Chaitanya's advent, it's mentioned in Chaitanya Mangal, once Rukmini Devi and Krishna, they were having a discussion in Dwarka. So Krishna was saying to Rukmini Devi that he's so pleased with, he's so pleased with her service. Then Rukmini Devi was saying, you can understand everything, my lord, but you will not be able to fathom how much love me and Radharani have for you. We can understand that. But you being the object of love and devotion, you won't be able to understand that fully. So then also Rukmini Devi was mentioning how Srimati Radharani is more superior than her, she was saying. And she was saying, Krishna, that's why you cannot forget her. Even if you are here with us, sometimes at night you weep because thinking of Radharani and the gopis. So in the meantime, Narad Muni came there, and then Krishna actually mentioned that in Kali Yuga, right after the Kali Yuga, that Krishna comes, he will manifest as Gauranga Mahaprabhu to experience the love of Srimati Radharani. And we see that Mahaprabhu actually took two very important things from Radharani. One is her mood, internal mood, and then her complexion, which is molten gold. That's why Mahaprabhu is molten gold. So I will do the Mangalachan prayers before going further ahead on the main discussion, just to invoke our previous Acharya's mercy so that we can discuss this subject matter, which is so confidential, and also so that our previous Acharyas can give us the understanding so that we can understand this this devotional service and how much sweet it is. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Samrupa Kadamayam Nadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Shakrajatam Shagana Raghunatham Nitam Tam Shajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Shagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vetamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanto Radha Kanto Namastate Apta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarupascha Kripasindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna, Jai Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Ajanulambita Bhuja Kanaka Vadata, Sankirtanaika Pitara Kamalaya, Taksha Vishambharo Dijabharo Yogadharma Palo Vande Jagatapriya Karu Karuna Vatara. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So, as we're saying, Vallabhacharya, when he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri Dham, he was discussing with Mahaprabhu about devotional service. And then Mahaprabhu actually started telling him about the devotees in Jagannath, the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how loving they are, how nicely they're doing devotional service. their glories, Mahaprabhu started explaining to Vallabhacharya one by one. So Vallabhacharya became very amazed, thinking that, okay, so there is not only one, there are hundreds of devotees here who, what I've heard from Mahaprabhu is amazing, simply amazing. So among all these devotees, one of them was Ramananda Rai, whose disappearance day was this month, I think 9th of May. And so with Ramananda Rai, Mahaprabhu actually discussed some of the very esoteric and confidential aspects of devotional service. So as we know, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayakan. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Radha and Krishna. And who is Ramananda Rai? So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions in his Amrita Prabha Bhashya that Ramananda Rai is none other than Vishakha. Because the knowledge that Ramananda Rai had about devotional service, about serving Krishna, only Radharani's very intimate friends can have that knowledge. And that's why Mahaprabhu was just waiting for the right moment to meet Ramananda Rai. So before that, we know that Mahaprabhu took sannyas in Navadvip. And after that, by his mother's permission, Sati Devi's permission, he started living in Jagannath Puri. So in Jagannath Puri, he stayed for some time. Then he desired to tour south part of India, South India. So with with this effort and then with all the devotees' permission, he started for South India. But before he left, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told him that in his journey, he should meet Ramananda Rai. Because Ramananda Rai has some jewels of devotional service which will please Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu agreed on Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's request. And then he started his journey towards South India. So as we see, when he started his journey, first he went to the Nisringa temple, which is at Shimachalam. So Purborite Prabhu age gamon korila Nisringa khetre kotodine gela. So Prabhu, according to his previous program, here's the program. He actually started his tour, and after some days, he arrived at the Nisringa temple. So this is a very magnificent temple, and let's read about it in the purport. How was the temple? Prabhu, can you would you be able to share Maitulila chapter 8, text number 3? Yes, let's read the purport. So, the Nisringa temple is situated on the top of a hill about 5 miles away from Visakhapatnam. There is a railway station on the South Indian Railway known as Simachal. The temple known as Simachal is the best temple in the vicinity of Visakhapatnam. The temple is very affluent and is a typical example of the architecture of the area. On one stone tablet, it is mentioned that formerly a queen covered the deity with gold plate. This is mentioned in the Visakhapatnam Gazette here. About the temple, there are residential quarters for the priests and devotees. Indeed, at the present moment, there are many residential quarters to accommodate visiting devotees. The original deity is situated within the depths of the temple, but there is another deity, a duplicate known as the Vijayamurti. the smaller deity can be moved from the temple and taken on public processions. Isn't it beautiful? There is a small Nishingadev deity which they carry out for public processions. Priests who generally belong to the Ramanuja Sampradaya are in charge of that deity worship. So Mahaprabhu went to this place. And after going there, he started dancing in ecstatic love. And then he did the famous verse, Sri Nisringa Jaya Nisringa, Jaya Jaya Nisringa, Pala Desho Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa. So that's all glories to Nisringadev, all glories to Nisringadev, who is the Lord of Prahlad Maharaj. And like a honeybee, is always engaged in beholding the lotus-like face of the goddess of fortune. So the goddess of fortune is always serving the Lord. And when Lord Nisringadeva actually killed Hiranyakashipu, he was very angry. And Brahma, Shiva, everyone became fearful actually to approach him because of his anger and pacify him. So then they thought that let's give this task by requesting Lakshmi Devi, because Lakshmi Devi is, Lord's wife. And we know, right, we can be very angry, but in front of in front of our wives, sometimes we have to submit. So how angry we are. So that way they, in a very planned manner, the demigods, they actually sent Lakshmi Devi to Nishingadev. So Nishingadev was so angry and he was looking at with red fiery eyes. And then Lakshmi Devi was very fearful seeing Nishingadev in that form. And she said that she cannot go in front of Nishingadev. So then what to do? It's a big problem now, how to pacify Nishingadev. So that's why then what happened, after much discussion, Brahma requested Prahlad Maharaj to go and pacify Nishingadev. So after Prahlad Maharaj went to Nishingadev, Nishingadev became very happy. He took Prahlad Maharaj in his lap and started, nurturing him and put his hand on Prahlad Maharaj's head. So then, he saw that Prahlad Maharaj was so happy. So Nishingadev was thinking, how come, seeing me, everyone is so terrified, even the demigods are so terrified. How come he is so happy? So then, he understood that there is something in my bhakti which Prahlad Maharaj is experiencing. And, probably that had been one more reason why Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to understand the emotions of his devotees and also to practically show how to perform devotional service to Lord Shri Krishna. So then after that, what happened? The pujari came with some prasad and a garland and gave to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then after this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his lunch in a Brahmana's place, Vaishnava Brahmana. And then he stayed that night in the temple. And then next day, what he did, he again started his chanting. So Mahaprabhu was so much in loving ecstasy. Actually, he didn't know where he's going, what he's doing. He was just chanting about Lord Sri Krishna, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and he was moving. And so that way, wherever he was going, he was actually, making everyone Vaishnava there. He was telling about Krishna to everyone, and that way everyone were getting induced to devotional service. And that way, at some point, he came to the near of the Godavari river. So there, when he saw the river Godavari, he thought this is Yamuna. Because, he was actually in Vrindavan in his consciousness. And he was searching for Krishna. So when he saw Godavari, he thought this is Yamuna. And then there was a forest on the bank of the river Godavari. He thought, that's Vrindavan. Godavari dekhi hoilo Jamuna Sharan, তীরে বন দেখি স্মৃতি হইল বৃন্দাবন. So he thought that this is Vrindavan. Then he took his bath in river Godavari, and then he did some Krishna Sankirtan after going a little away from the bathing place. And that time what happened, there was a lot of trumpets, and then bugles were being played, a lot of music, and then somebody very aristocratic came, like a king. So with him came many brahmanas, and those brahmanas, they were chanting Vedic mantras. So those days there were expert brahmanas like that who can chant very nicely the Vedic brahmanas, the Vedic mantras from the Vedas. So when Mahaprabhu saw him, he understood that this is none other than Ramananda. And Prabhu wanted to go and meet him actually, but he could not, because he is a sannyasi. And during those days, sannyasis had a lot of rules and regulations that they need to follow. And Mahaprabhu actually wanted to set up an ideal conduct and standard of sannyas dharma. So that's why he maintained the sannyas dharma very rigidly. And we cannot even imagine nowadays. I mean, he was eating mostly once at noon. And then, main meal. And then he was sleeping on the floor. And then he didn't used to associate with any woman. And then he was constantly engaged in devotional service. So he used to maintain very high standard. And there were some associates of him who were not able to keep up with him. And later, Mahaprabhu asked them to accept Grihastha ashram. Those associates who were actually, either brahmachari or sannyasis, they were associating with Mahaprabhu. But then Mahaprabhu asked them, few of them, to take sannyas, to take Grihastha ashram. So very high standard Mahaprabhu used to follow. So that's why he was waiting, and he was, expecting that Ramananda Rai would approach him. So then Ramananda Rai did come, seeing this wonderful sannyas. Surya Shato Shamakanti Oruna Bhasan Shubholita Prakanda Deho Kamal Lochon. Sri Ramananda Rai then saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be as brilliant as hundreds of suns. The Lord was covered by a saffron garment. He was large in body and very strongly built, and his eyes were like lotus petals. Very beautiful. You can just imagine. I think there are some pictures of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which later Maharaj Prataprudra took help of some artists to paint, and we can see few of them. So we can just understand how beautiful Mahaprabhu is. দেখিয়া তাহার মনে হইল চমৎকার, আসিয়া করিল দণ্ডবত নমস্কার. So after coming, Ramananda gave dandavat to Mahaprabhu, and that was the tradition. Even now, whenever we see a sannyasi, we should give dandavats. So that custom Ramananda Rai followed. So then Prabhu, Sriman Mahaprabhu, actually got hold of him and said, say Krishna, Krishna. And then Prabhu wanted to embrace him. So then he was asking, are you Ramananda Rai? Then Ramananda Rai said, yes, I am Ramananda Rai. So then Ramananda Rai, the way he explained himself is very interesting. He said, I'm your very low servant, and I belong to the Shudra community. So humble. That way he represented him. Then the Lord embraced him, and both of them actually lost consciousness. You can imagine, right? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Radha and Krishna together. And then here comes Ramananda, who is none other than Vishakha Devi. So these three old friends, they're meeting. So we can understand how much the static emotion will be after some amount of separation when they kind of came to the material world. Actually, when Mahaprabhu came, all his associates, when Krishna came actually as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all his associates in the spiritual world, Radharani, Lalita Devi came as Swarup Damodar Goswami. Then Vishakha Devi came as Ramananda Rai. That way, many of Lord Krishna's associates, they came also to take part in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And what to speak of even Krishna Lila? Even those, some of the associates who were, for example, Hanuman in Ram Lila, the Pandavas were in Krishna Lila, all of them came actually to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prahlad Maharaj came as Vasudev Datta. So it's mentioned by Kavi Karnapura in the book called Gaur-Ganadhas Deepika, how he made a nice one-to-one relationship between devotees who took pastime in Gaur-Lila, what is their Sarupa and Krishna Lila. It's not like they are not eternally Mahaprabhu's associates. Actually, in the spiritual world, as we know, there is Setadipa. And in Setadipa, what happens? Mahaprabhu is residing there, and he's doing continuous Harinam Sankirtan. He's enjoying with all his associates there. So these associates in Chaitanya Lila, many of them are actually in Gaur Lila also in Chaitanya. But again, they are also in Krishna Lila, and we know it is possible if somebody wants, they can enjoy in Gaur Lila and also in Krishna Lila when they go back to the spiritual world, as we know. This has been mentioned before by our previous acharyas and Srila Prabhupada. So it is interesting actually, when Prabhupada wrote Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, one day with some conversation he had with one of his disciples, and the disciple was saying Bengali sweets are the best. Then, Prabhupada was then just finishing his compilation of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he said, this Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is real Bengali sweet, he was saying to the disciple. So that way you can understand how much sweetness is there in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Lord's dealing with his devotees, the devotees' dealings within themselves. It's so sweet. Sometimes we feel like we wish we were there in those pastimes and observe them. So actually, I asked a question to his Vaisheshika Maharaj before about this topic, and he said, since the Sankirtan pastime is still going on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we are all here taking part in it. So we are in Gaur Lila still. Because Sankirtan is the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jare dekho tare kaho Krishna Upadesh, amar aggaye Guru bhaiya taro edesh. Bharat bhumite hoiya manusya jarma jar, jarma saptak kori karo paropkar. That way, if you're connected with Sankirtan, then just chanting and distributing transcendental books of Srila Prabhupada, we are actually taking part in Gaur Lila. So then what happened, back to the discussion, they actually had so much love that, they embrace each other and they fall in the ground. Ramananda Rai and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then all the Brahmanas who were around, they were thinking, actually, what is going on? This sannyasi, he is very radiant, and he is embracing a Sudra. So we'll have to understand there were 4 castes, as we know, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So Ramananda Rai, because he was serving under Prataprudra Maharaj. Ramandarai was also a king, but since he was serving under Prataprudra Maharaj, social custom-wise he was considered as Shudra because he was working and doing service under somebody, which is not bad. If the master is exalted, somebody like Prataprudra, then we can understand how much benefit Ramandarai is having. And also, similarly, Prataprudra Maharaj also got a lot of blessings from Ramandarai, which we'll see later. It happens in Chaitanya Charitamrita in detail. So, but still, social consideration-wise, Ramandarai was a Shudra. So that's why this Brahman was saying why this sannyasi is embracing this Shudra, which was not the social custom during them. Normally, sannyasis, they used to maintain strict discipline when mingling with people from different castes. Then they were saying about Ramandarai that Ei Maharaj Mahapandit Gambhir Sannyashi Sporshe Matto Vela Usthir. This Ramandarai Maharaj is normally very sober, but now he's acting differently after he embraced Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like a madman, he's acting. এই মতো বিপ্রগণ ভাবে মনে মন বিজাতীয় লোক দেখি প্রভু হইল সম্বরণ. So that way, this, Brahmanas were thinking in a different way. So we'll read this text. Prabhu, can you open text 28 of the same chapter? Thank you, Prabhu. So let's see the translation. While the Brahmanas were thinking in this way about the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw those outsiders and restrained his transcendental emotions. Prabhu, would you like to read the purport?
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Ramananda Rai was intimately related to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he can be accepted as Sajatiya, a person within the intimate circle of the Lord. The Brahmanas, however, were followers of the Vedic rituals and were not able to have an intimate connection with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Consequently, they are called Vijatiya Loka. In other words, they were not pure devotees. One may be a highly learned Brahmana, but if he is not a pure devotee, he is a Vijatiya, an outcast, one outside devotional service. In other words, a non-devotee. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai were embracing ecstasy, the Lord restrained his transcendental emotions upon seeing the outsider Brahmanas.
Thank you. So we can see, though, both of them are in ecstasy, the Lord, he became conscious at some point. And he actually started, embracing the Lord in ecstasy. So at this point, I would like to see if there is any realization or question, if any of you have, before I move ahead with the discussion.
So let me just check online quickly. So Prabhu, just there is no question, but one Dayanidhi Prabhu just says, sweet, sweet, everything is sweet that is related to Krishna. So there is that comment. Otherwise, there is no, there are no questions online.
Oh yes, thank you, Dayanidhi Prabhu. Actually, this is true. Everything is so sweet about Krishna. And through Guru's mercy, previous Acharya's mercy, we are able to also understand that sweetness. Okay, so if there is nothing else, we'll move ahead with the discussion. So then, what is happening? they started, they got sober and they sat together and they, started discussing. So then Mahaprabhu mentioned how he heard about Ramananda Rai from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya কহিল তোমার গুণে তোমারে মিলিতে মোরে করিল যতন. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya actually spoke of the good qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and with very care he requested Mahaprabhu to meet Sri Ramananda Rai. So the Lord was saying that he actually came here just to meet Ramananda Rai, no other purpose. And the Lord was so happy that he was able to see Ramananda Rai without putting much effort. Then Ramananda Rai said, actually, Sarvabhauma considers me as a servant and he wants to do some good for me. That's why he actually requested you to come. Well, you can see how humble the dealings between Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. Actually, they're expressing how Vaishnava dealing should be. They're exemplifying actually Vaishnava etiquette through their behaviors. Each of them is considering themselves as, not very elevated. And then they're trying to give the credit to the other person. So Ramadra was saying that by seeing you, my life is successful, and this is the kripa, blessing of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And that way, Ramananda is glorifying Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So it's about appreciating, glorifying the other devotees. So it's even mentioned in Mahabharata. Yudhishthira Maharaj and Bhishmadev, they were having discussion in Shanti Parva. So Bhishmadev said, when you speak ill about somebody, you get some of their bad qualities. And when you speak high and praise somebody else, you get some of their good qualities. So our Vaishnava etiquette is so, subtle. It actually protects us from fall down, from any calamity which can come in our devotional life. So that's why Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai, they're actually showing examples how two Vaishnavas, they are meeting each other and glorifying each other. At the same time, they are inquiring each other about Krishna, which we'll see later. So, kaha tumi sakkhat Ishwar Narayan, kaha muhi Raj Sevi, Vishoyi Shudratham. So, Ramananda was saying that Mahaprabhu is the supreme Narayan, supreme personality of Godhead, and he's just a servant of the king and lower than the Shudra. So then he mentioned a very important point that normally those who are in announced order like you will not touch me actually because of fear and of social custom and many other things. So, but you, especially the Vedas, they actually forbid somebody like Mahaprabhu is in announced order to associate with Shudras. But then Mahaprabhu is embracing him, so he was just saying that he felt very blessed because of this. So you'll have to understand actually, Vedas say it for a reason. It says that the sannyasis, they should be careful about their association with the different castes. And also another aspect is Ramananda Rai, though, socially he was following the duties of a Shudra, but, he was actually not a Shudra. He was more than a Brahman. He was a Vaishnava. So that way Mahaprabhu gave him proper respect, which Vaishnava deserves. And who knows better than Lord Sri Krishna how to deal with the Vaishnava? That's why he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to show us how to behave like a Vaishnava and how to treat other Vaishnavas. So that way, Ramananda Rai understood that this is none other than Lord Krishna, because nobody else than Krishna can behave so perfectly. So then Ramananda was saying, Amanistarite tomar iha gomam param dayalu tumi patita pavan. He's saying, you have come here to deliver me. Specifically, I know that. And you are patit pavan. You are deliverer of all fallen souls. Which is true. Mahaprabhu is the deliverer of all fallen souls. So, I was hearing my Guru Maharaj, Zorenas Jayapatika Swami, and when he was giving answer to a question, somebody was asking, who is the most eligible recipient of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy? So then Guru Maharaj said, he has to be fallen. If he considers himself, most fallen, he will get the most mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Quite contradictory, right? But that's how Mahaprabhu's mercy flows. His mercy flows more towards the fallen. And Nityananda Prabhu, he is one step ahead of Mahaprabhu. He is always ready to distribute mercy to all the fallen conditioned souls. So that's why Mahaprabhu is called Mahavadanya Avatar. And Nityananda Prabhu is the instrument through which Mahaprabhu is accomplishing his mission. So Mahaprabhu is coming actually to this earth. There were two reasons, one external, one internal. So in external reason was actually deliver all the fallen conditioned souls and also establish this religion of Krishna consciousness, specifically worshipping Radha Krishna in the mood of servant of the servant of the servant. So, and Nityananda Mahaprabhu became his instrument actually. Through Nityananda Mahaprabhu, he's actually still delivering so many fallen conditioned souls all over the world, we can see. And through Nityananda Mahaprabhu, all the acharyas are coming, and then Srila Prabhupada actually established ISKCO, and now Krishna consciousness is spreading all over the world. So we are so fortunate. Actually, being a servant of Mahaprabhu, there is a lot of pleasure in it. Nowadays, in material world, everyone wants to be master. They want to be owner. They want to have their influence. So being a servant is not accepted as a very good position in material sense, but in spiritual world or in Krishna consciousness, this is a very big position, being a servant. And everyone wants to be servant. We see Advaita Acharya wants to be servant. Nityananda Mahaprabhu wants to be Mahaprabhu's servant. Everyone wants to be Mahaprabhu's servant, actually. Even Sri Ramananda Rai, Swarup Damodar, they just dedicated their life for Mahaprabhu's service. So that's what I said in Bhagavad Gita, Uddhamala Mata Shakham. So the material world is opposite of what it is in the spiritual world. And the pleasure and the bliss that the servants relish in the devotional service to Krishna is not indescribable. So we can see that practically when I do some service, maybe very small service, I feel very good. And I think all of you have the same feeling. So that service actually gives us the position of servant. And then if we can serve under a servant of Mahaprabhu, like a guru, Diksha Guru, or Shiksha Guru. We're so fortunate in ISKCON, we have so many, we have actually many qualified preachers, Diksha Gurus. Siksha Gurus were enlightening us on the path of Krishna consciousness, like his Vaisheshika Maharaj and in our ISP. So, it's then if we can serve under them, then we'll get actually more bliss, because everyone has to become servant of the servant of the servant here. We don't want to be direct servant of Krishna. No, we want to be servant of the servant of the servant. That's the mood we should have. Though I personally, find it sometimes difficult, but that's how we can release the real pleasure in devotion songs. So then, as we see, Mahaprabhu is Patita Pavan. So he was saying, Ramantarai, Mahant Shabhav e tarite pamar nij karjo nahi tabu jantar ghar. So normally the Mahantas, they have no business to go to others places, like especially to householders places, but still they go. Why they go? Because they want to deliver or give some blessings in the guise of Krishna Katha to these householders, and to help them to progress in devotional service. So then Mahaprabhu continued his discussion. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was having a lot of influence there, and I mentioned that all the Brahmanas he had with him, like more than 1,000, by seeing Mahaprabhu, all of their hearts melt. Their hearts melted actually, and they're feeling so much bliss because Mahaprabhu was so beautiful and charming, and a sannyasi more than 6 feet tall and looking so beautiful. You can imagine how was his effect. So Krishna Krishna Nam Shuni Shabar Badane Shabaranga Pulokita Asranayane. They were all saying Krishna Krishna. They were having tears in their eyes. Just by seeing Mahaprabhu, they became so ecstatic. And their body was shivering. So much bliss they were experiencing. Akrite prakrite tomar ishar lakhan jibe na shambhabe e apakrita gun. So can you see the verse, Ashrama Prabhu, it's text 43? Thank you, Prabhu. So somebody would like to read. I see Ashish Prabhu. Advaita Ashish Prabhu. Prabhu, would you like to read? Or probably Sveta Mataji. Would you like to read? Okay, no worries. I'll continue.
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Please go ahead.
My dear sir, translation. My dear sir, according to your behavior and bodily features, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is impossible for ordinary living beings to possess such transcendental qualities. Read it purport?
Yes, please.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's bodily features were uncommon. Indeed, his body was extraordinary in its measurements. The measurement of his chest and the measurement of his forearms were the same. This is called Nyagroda Parimandala. As far as his nature is concerned, he was kind to everyone. No one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be kind to everyone. Therefore, the Lord's name is Krishna, all attractive. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 14.4, Krishna is the kind father of everyone. In every species of life, Sarva Yonishu, he is the original father, the seed giver, Bija Pradapita. How then can he be unkind to any living entity? One may be a man, an animal, or even a tree, but the Lord is kind to everyone. That is God's qualification. He also says in the Bhagavad Gita 9.29, Samo aham sarva bhuteshu. I am equally kind to everyone. And he advises, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam saranam braja. Give up all other engagements and simply surrender unto me. This instruction is meant not only for Arjun but for all living entities. Whoever takes advantage of this offer is immediately immune to all sinful activity and returns home back to Godhead. While present on this planet, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made the same offer. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribol.
So we can see here, right, that Krishna advises Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamakam Sharanam Bhaja, and then Samaham Sarva Bhuteshu, to give up all other engagements and simply surrender unto me. But then he had to come as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to show us how to surrender, really, how to take shelter of Guru and then perform devotional service under Guru's care and instruction. And then that way, Prabhupada is mentioning that we can be immune to all sinful activity and we can return home back to Godhead. So Mahaprabhu actually, with his personal example and instructions, is showing how to dedicate our life for service of Krishna. As we can see, one part is, we can see that his bodily features were not very common. And Ramananda was able to perceive it. And some measurements we can see of his chest and measurement of his forearms were the same. So I was thinking when I read this, how does that work? And how expert is Ramananda just by seeing his chest and his forearm, he could do the measurement and he could understand that Mahaprabhu is not an ordinary person. So we'll go to the next verse, Prabhu. প্রভু কহে তুমি মহাভাগবত উত্তম তোমার দর্শনে সবার দ্রব হইল মন. Yes, Sweta Mataji, would you like to read the translation and purport?
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. The Lord replied to Ramananda Raya, Sir, you are the best of the topmost devotees. Therefore, simply the sight of you has melted everyone's heart. The purport: unless one is a first-class devotee, he cannot be a preacher. A preacher is generally a topmost devotee, but in order to meet the general populace, he has to distinguish between devotees and non-devotees. Otherwise, an advanced devotee makes no such distinctions. Indeed, he always sees that everyone is engaged in the service of the Lord. When one engages in preaching work, he must distinguish between people and understand that some people are not engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. The preacher then has to take compassion upon such innocent people who do not know how to worship the Lord. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.45, the symptoms of the topmost devotee are described as follows. Sarva bhuteshu ya pasyed bhagavad bhavam atmanaha bhutani bhagavati atmani esha bhagavatottamaha. The advanced devotee sees that all living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone is in Krishna, and Krishna is also within everyone. Such a vision is possible only for a person who is very advanced in devotional service. Wow.
Thank you, Sweta Mataji.
Yeah.
So, as we see here, Brahmandara is saying that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the topmost devotee. So, and by seeing him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying to Ramandara that he is the topmost devotee, and by seeing him, everyone's heart has melted. So, Prabhu is giving a counter logic here. And we know Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before in his previous ashram, he was a scholar and he used to, beat everyone in, logics. Nobody used to could defeat him. And he used to put on a logic, then he used to ask Paradar Pandit or Mukunda Datta to, show some, he used to put actually an argument, and then he used to ask to put logic to prove their point. And when Paradar Pandit used to put or bring on his point, then Mahaprabhu used to defeat him with another logic. And then later again, he used to say, oh, no, actually, what you said was correct, and this is because of this. So that way he used to defeat and again reestablish the logic of the opponents. So here he's doing the same thing with Ramandara, but in a very sweet manner. He's kind of glorifying Ramandara and saying that because of seeing him, everyone's heart melted. And then some important aspects Prabhupada mentions in the purport that a preacher has to be first-class devotee. So it's not like it's especially actually talking about the Uttama Adhikaris who come to the Madhyama level to preach. So when somebody is in Uttama Adhikari level, they actually sees that everyone is engaged in the devotional service of Lord Sri Krishna somewhere or other. But the problem is you cannot preach if you're feeling that everyone is already engaged in devotional service. So then to enhance the progress of the spirit, soul, and Krishna consciousness, the living beings, they come to Madhyama level. And that way they engage everyone in the service of the Lord. So that's why Prabhupada mentions that when we are doing some kind of preaching work, is very important to distinguish between people and understand what level they are in, like if they're engaged in devotional service, if they're not. Just for preaching perspective, this is required so that the preacher can assist their progress in devotional service. So as we've seen, Srimad Bhagavatam 11:245 is mentioning, right, how the advanced devotees, they see everyone as part and parcel of the Lord. And then with this vision, actually they can have this vision because they're very advanced in devotional service. So then Mahaprabhu was saying, forget about others. Look at me. I am a Mayavadi sannyasi, according to social custom. And I am actually plunging into an ocean of Krishna Prem by just saying it. Then he was saying, my stone-like heart, to melt it actually, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya just sent me to you. So that way, they were glorifying each other and they're feeling unlimited pleasure within themselves. And this way, when devotees, they meet together, glorify each other, and then start inquiring what the other person is doing, the other devotee is doing, rather than just telling about what I am doing. This actually creates a very intimate connection, a very cordial connection. And we can see how Ramandara and Mahaprabhu, they're getting closer and closer, though they met for first time, through the dealings they're having as Vaishnavas, sweet dealings. This is only found in devotees and in devotional service. So, actually, Dale Carnegie wrote a book. We know that it's about how to make friends. So there, some of the theories he said that just, praise everyone, and then don't say bad things about others. And that you will be able to make many friends. So it's very simple, like actually trying to exemplify the good qualities in devotees. And everyone has their own shortcomings, but it's about focusing on the good qualities. It's like honeybee. A honeybee only goes to those flowers which have honey, and then sucks the honey out of those flowers and stores. That way, a devotee is supposed to be like that, trying to focus on the good qualities of others and then glorifying them. That way, a very cordial and intimate connection can be established. So then what happened? One Vedic Vaishnava Brahmana came and invited Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu accepted that invitation and told Ramananda Rai that I would like to meet you again. I want to hear Krishna Katha from you. Then that way, Ramananda Rai also said that if you want to really deliver me, then please stay 5-7 days, and then cure my dushta. He was mentioning dushta, my wicked mind. So then, though they didn't want to separate, but they offered dandavats, and then Ramananda Rai offered dandavats to him as a householder. He offered dandavats to Mahaprabhu, following that social custom, and then he left. And then Mahaprabhu went to that Brahmana's place and he took his lunch. So we'll stop here and we'll see if there is any other realization or question or anything you'd like to share.
Prabhu, I'm just checking online. Let me check if there are any questions there. So no new questions online. But I just wanted to mention about the dealings between Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai, right? I mean, I think Ramananda Rai is a belief. He's Lalita, basically in the Krishna Lila, I think. The Lalita or Vishaka, I'm forgetting. So they are, I mean, it is that emotion, right, between Radharani and Lalita, right? They could not check, basically, and that was basically driving. But externally, they were also so Mahaprabhu is like, I mean, Krishna himself, right? So he, with one activity, he does many functions, right? One function is, of course, that what is happening in Krishna Lila, the same emotions, right, between Lalita and Radharani, that is expressed between Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai, and the other function is more like in the Vaishnava community, that how you praise, the competition between two Vaishnavas, how they can outsmart other person in praising, basically. And of course, Mahaprabhu wins, basically. So that is what I was thinking. That is the sweet part of it, basically. In real material world, when we argue to make our point, right? And we are the center. But here, also they are arguing, but that argument is sweet because other person is the center. I'm trying to, that person is trying to make me the center, and I'm trying to make that person center. So he was showing that how even argument can be sweet when the two Vaishnavas they deal with each other. I was just thought that I was reflecting on that part.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the nice realization. I was thinking on the same perspective. It can be a little different also sometimes. Like Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, their dealings were a little different. They were not always, they were praising each other, but they were using code words, right? I mean, the way they were praising each other, normal people, they will consider it as they were defaming each other actually, and they were kind of cursing each other, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we see how Krishna Goswami in some of the part, I mean, he mentions those, and then Prabhupada in some of the purports he mentions how actually they're glorifying each other. And that's why, when like two senior Vaishnavas are fighting, very senior Vaishnavas, it says it's better to, not take side of anyone.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks, Prabhu. Anything else?
I don't know. While we are discussing, let me check again if someone has put any question or comments. So we don't have anything else, Prabhu. So you can continue.
Okay. So the time is till 8:30, Prabhu, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Another
Okay.
10 minutes. Yeah.
So we'll discuss for some more time. So then what happened? Mahaprabhu was eagerly waiting for the evening to come, so that then Ramandarai can finish his royal duties, his service, and then come, and then they can discuss about Krishna. So Ramandarai came in the evening with one servant, and then he offered dandavats to Mahaprabhu, and then they embraced, and then they started talking about Krishna. So then we'll read text 57. If Prabhu, you can bring it up. Yeah, 57. Okay, so let me read this translation. Okay. প্রভু কহে পরশ্লোক সাধ্যের নির্ণয় রায় কহে সধর্ম চরণে বিষ্ণু ভক্তি হয়. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Ramananda Rai recite a verse from the revealed scriptures concerning the ultimate goal of life. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Ramananda replied, if one executes the prescribed duties of his social position, he awakens his original Krishna consciousness. In this connection, Sri Ramanujacharya states in the Vedartha Sangraha that devotional service is naturally very dear to the living entity. Indeed, it is life's goal. This devotional service is supreme knowledge or Krishna consciousness, and it brings detachment from all material activity. In the transcendental position, a living being can perfectly acknowledge the superiority of serving the Supreme Lord. The devotees attain the Supreme Lord only by devotional service. Having such knowledge, one engages in his occupational duty, and that is called Bhakti Yoga. By performing Bhakti Yoga, one can rise to the platform of pure devotional service. A great saint, the father of Srila Vyasadeva, Parasharma, has specifically mentioned that devotional service to the Lord can ultimately be awakened in human society by the discharge of duties in accordance with the Varnashrama system. The Supreme Personality of Godhead instituted Varnashram Dharma to give human beings a chance to return home back to Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, who is known in the Bhagavad Gita as Purushottam, the greatest of all personalities, personally came and declared that the institution of Varnashram Dharma was founded by him. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chaturvarnam maya sristam guna karma vibhagasha tasya kartam apimam vinti akartaram abhyam. Elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita 18:45-46, the Lord says, स्वे स्वे कर्माणि अभिरता संसिद्धिं लभते नरः स्वकर्माणि रतः सिद्धिं यथा विन्दाति तच्छृणु यथा प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां येन सर्वमिदं ततं स्वकर्मानतम् अभ्यर्च्य सिद्धिं विन्दति मानवः. Human society should be divided into 4 divisions: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And everyone should always engage in his occupational duty. The Lord says that those engaged in their occupational duty can attain perfection simply by rendering loving devotional service to the Lord while executing their particular duty. Actually, the modern ideal of a classless society can be introduced only by Krishna consciousness. Let men perform their occupational duty and let them give their profits to the service of the Lord. In other words, one can attain the perfection of life by discharging one's occupational duty and employing the results in the service of the Lord. This method is confirmed by great personalities like Bodhayana, Tanka, Ramida, Guyadeva, Kapardi, and Bharuchi. It is also confirmed by the Vedanta Sutra. So, here we can see the Lord is asking to Ramananda Rai that, what is the ultimate goal of life? You recite a verse. Ramananda Rai was a scholar. So, he knew Bhagavad Gita, he knew Srimad Bhagavatam, and he knew actually what is the ultimate goal of life. So now Mahaprabhu is asking Ramananda Rai that you explain about it with a shloka. So then Ramananda Rai recited that if one executes the prescribed duties of the social position, follows the varnashram, then he can attain Krishna consciousness. So this is actually very interesting because here it's saying ultimate goal of life is following the varnashram, the prescribed duties. That way, actually, the Lord instituted this varnashram, as you can see in Prabhupada's purport, so that we can get purified by taking shelter of a specific varna, which is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and then an ashrama, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and sannyasas. So, sannyasas. So, varnashram is important if you want to progress and then attain Krishna consciousness. Later, let's read text 58. Can you go to the next verse, Prabhu? Can you please read, Prabhu, text 58?
Varnasramacharavata purushena parapuman Vishnuradhyate pantha nanyatatoshakaranam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Asrama. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the 4 Varnas and Asramas. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is a quotation from Vishnu Puran 389. As stated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Prabhava Bhashya, the purport is that one can realize life's perfection simply by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1-13. Atah pumbhir dvija sreshta varnashrama vibhagasha swa anushtitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. Obeyed among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. Every man should perform his occupational duty in the light of his particular tendency. According to his abilities, one should accept a position in the Varnashrama institution. The divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra are natural divisions within society. Indeed, everyone has a prescribed duty according to the Varnashrama dharma. Those who properly execute their prescribed duties live peacefully and are not disturbed by material conditions. The spiritual orders, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa, are called ashramas. If one executes his prescribed duty in both the social and spiritual orders, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is satisfied. If one neglects his duties, however, he becomes a transgressor and a candidate for a hellish condition. Actually, we see that different people are engaged in different ways. Therefore, there must be divisions according to work. To attain perfection, one must take devotional service the center of life. In this way, one can awaken his natural instincts by work, association, and education. One should accept the Varnashrama divisions by qualification, not by birth. Unless this system is introduced, human activities cannot be systematically executed. Do you want me to read the rest Prabhu?
Prabhu, can you please finish it?
The Brahmanas are the intellectuals who can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are always engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. It does not matter whether one is born in India or outside India. Those who are naturally very heroic and who tend to rule over others are called Kshatriyas. Those who tend to produce food by agricultural methods, protect cows and other animals, and engage in trade are called Vaishyas or merchants. Those who are not sufficiently intelligent to be Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, or Vaishyas are required to serve a master and are called Sudras. Thus, everyone can engage in the service of the Lord and awaken his natural Krishna consciousness. If a society does not function according to such natural divisions, the social orders become degraded. The conclusion is that the scientific method of Varnashram Dharma should be adopted by society.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we see how Prabhu is emphasizing following his Varnashram, and he actually wanted to establish Daiva Varnashram within ISKCON, where devotees will take shelter of this Varnas and Ashramas, and they will progress in devotional service. With respect to time, I would like to summarize before we end. So we discussed about how Vallabhacharya met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and heard about the glories of the different devotees, and one of them is Ramananda Rai. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when in his South India tour, he met Ramananda Rai, and then in the Godavari River, and then they started discussing about confidential topics of Krishna consciousness, especially starting with what is the aim of life. And we see how Ramananda Rai put forth the importance of following Varnashrama, and how through following the prescribed duties of Varnashrama, one can attain Krishna consciousness. So we will, see if, opportunity arises and time permits in our next session about how Mahaprabhu considers this aspect of following Varnashram Dharma, and then how the discussion progresses between Mahaprabhu and Sri Ramananda Rai. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Asramada Prabhu for coordinating and helping with the broadcasting and also reading with us. Before ending, if anybody has anything to mention.
No, Prabhu. There are no questions or comments, but this is actually a very confidential topic. And I think we have not gone into the confidential aspects of this topic. So I think we will eagerly await your part 2 lecture whenever, Gandharvika Radha Mataji allows.
Yes.
Schedules. Thank you for bringing this topic. Wonderful topic. Hare Krishna.
Have a good evening.
Anirudh Nitai Prabhu ki Char Prabhu ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Dear devotees, we'll now close this session. Thank you all for joining. Very good.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hello.
Thank you, everyone.